Alright, today we're going to convert this 2013 Mustang over to E85. Start by taking off the strut tower braces as well as the cold air intake and everything, and then the cover for the motor, and then from there we'll be able to access the fuel rails. We'll take off the strut tower brace with a 13mm deep well. We'll just have to take off the two on each side. It's fairly easy to complete. I know earlier I said that you would have to pull off the cold air intake, but it doesn't look like that. You'll have to do that. You'll have to pull off these lines here. That way you can access and pull off the fuel rail. Pulling off the fuel rail is like super easy though. So when you do this, all it is four bolts that you have to take off with a 10mm. So looked at that prior too, but these hoses here, all you have to do is lift them up and you can move them over. Then you'll pull these up, these guides here, and then they're labeled right and left side. Of course, the right and left side is to like specific from inside the car or not. So if you end up mixing them up, you may fit a little differently. Each of these individual plugs on your injectors. Although I like to live life on the danger side, something that I should have probably mentioned before was disconnecting the batteries, since we are messing with fuel and electricity with the fuel rail. You can disconnect the negative line from this with an 8mm socket, or 8mm socket. Now once you get in here and get this separated, you might want to throw a rag or something here, because once this disconnects, you're going to end up getting fuel all over the place, especially when you start taking the fuel rails out. Now, after you get the 4 bolts and you pop the fuel rail out, it's just going to disconnect. So I just put my rag underneath here, but just come in here and then it'll just ooze out for you, whatnot. Like I said, that's why you want to disconnect the battery. Then from here, pulling off the fuel rail, I'll mount the camera for that, but kind of zoom in. That way you could see how to pull the fuel rail off. Okay, now that we have all this disconnected, it's still going to make a mess because there's going to be fuel in the fuel rail and everything else, but just move this out of the way, and then these should pop off. Well, if I got all 4 bolts, I just took the cover off, so I got to get 4 more bolts off. Then we'll be able to do that. Yep. Okay, now that I got those foam things off, these bolts here on top, they're 10mm. So you have the two 10mm on the top to get that the rails that hold your water hoses on, and then from here you'll have the 10mm to take it off that's mounted to the manifold. So just these 4 out. Okay, now that those are officially out, just come in here and then just pull them out just like so. Like I said, it's a pretty easy process. When you pull them out, you want to make sure you got all your injectors and whatnot. Okay, so I've already converted these over to the 47-pound injectors from the stock ones. So you have these collars here. You'll end up popping them off. Be careful when you pop them off because they go flying. And then also what I would do when you're putting it back in, or even sealing these is making sure you put a little bit of fuel around them. That way that they sit in snug and that, so you're not having any issues getting them pressed in and whatnot. It's like a super easy process. So now that we got all these back in, we're just going to go ahead and put the fuel rail back in and then get everything reconnected. So like I said, it's just the 10 millimeters for those 4 bottom ones. You plug everything back in and whatnot, and then the last step would be your battery. So when you're putting these in, like I said, put a little bit of fuel at the bottom. Make sure all your lines are out of the way and whatnot, or all your wires are out of the way. And then when they go in, just work them in. You'll hear them click once they seat in there. And then after that, start plugging and getting everything reconnected. All right, now that everything's back together, all you got to do is reconnect the battery, and then it's time to tune it. I know for mine, I picked up the 47-pound injectors, and then I got the tune from VMP. I had a tune from them before. I just kind of stuck with them because I thought they were a really good company. To be honest with you, even with the data logs and everything else, Michelle has been great anytime that I've had to work with her. So I just stuck with them. But whoever your tuner is or whatever, you can do. Go with whoever you want. I chose to go through them. You can pick up the injectors. I think they're going for like $400 right now. I know they used to be a little cheaper, but they're just a little bit more expensive right now. I ran my fuel tank. I'm just about empty. So I'll end up creeping to the fuel station. I do advise, like, before starting this and then doing your tune and everything, making sure you're mindful of like where the fuel station is, how long you got to go, unless you want to get a fuel can or something with some E85 and then put it in. Other than that, like, it's pretty easy to do. But like I said, I'm running on fumes. After I get the E85 in, then I'll tune it to the E85, and then I'll do some videos, show you just how it runs and whatnot. I know I got to do a couple of tanks in it before I really run it too hard in that, just so that the motor itself and everything gets used to the new tune, new fuel, everything else. But other than that, super easy process. All right. Well, like, subscribe, and then I got more video coming. So yeah, thanks.